So with Christmas only a few days away, I thought I would talk about Christmas and Christianity to the deepest level that I really can, and hopefully in that process that may open us up to really becoming better channels of the actual Holy Spirit, the white light energy, the dove energy of life, and the grace of God. All of those being synonyms for really the same thing. And inwardly, I've been exploring this topic over the last few days, and in particular, the main sort of insight or point that I want to bring across today is that this grace of God, this very gentle dove-like energy, is still an energy of empowerment, and we are allowed to use that power in the service of goodwill towards everyone. So I think that's a very nice Christmas message. And to sort of get started with this, let's go back and look at the basic essence of Christmas that everyone understands, the sort of social meaning of Christmas. And why does everyone like Christmas ultimately? Because every year, we've got lots of Christmas celebrations, so obviously society likes it. Now, I think the essence of why we love it is the spirit of goodwill. During Christmas, everyone just wants the best for everyone else. I think that energy comes up through most people, and if we paint a really ideal picture, you might be at your family's home, there might be kids running around, there's probably good food, everyone's sharing presents with each other. So it's very easy, of course, to feel good towards your family and good towards yourself and just good about everything. You have the spirit of goodwill. Everything's great and we're all contributing to make things great. But Christianity, of course, there's more to it than just that. And although Christmas is celebrating the birth of Christ, ultimately the story of Christ reaches its peak on the cross when Jesus is crucified. And you've got to remember, being crucified, if you know much about Roman history, is not very poetic. In fact, it's a very sort of cruel, horrific type of thing that happened in history. It's almost unbelievable to know that these things happened and the Romans crucified thousands and thousands of people. But in the story of Christ, what makes him remarkable, this Jesus fellow, is that as he was being tortured, having nails, put through his hands or his arms maybe, he had nails through his feet, he was stabbed with a spear, he was made to carry his own cross, he was made to wear a crown of thorns, he was being mocked, for hours and hours and hours. It was physical torture, so that's not very nice. But even in that moment of being so strongly persecuted, Christ still had that goodwill in his heart. He still had the Holy Spirit, the grace of God within him. And famously, one of the phrases he said on the cross, translated of course, is he cried out to God saying, "Please forgive these people that are torturing me because they don't know what they're doing." And what that's showing is Christ has this grace within him that he can be selfless enough to want the best for everyone, and he trusts that in the long term God and the Holy Spirit can heal the entire situation. So that's the much more deeper aspect of goodwill, that you can have it at all times, doesn't matter what is happening in the external world. So what is preventing us actually from having this level of goodwill, this sort of Christmas goodwill at all times in our lives? Let's imagine this peak of goodwill, which might be if you see your nephew playing with their toys and you give them a present, let's say. In that moment of giving your nephew a present that it will enjoy, that could be like the peak of goodwill that a human being feels. But we want to have this sort of in daily life at all times because it feels good, it makes us more effective in the world, and it makes us good at being a channel of goodness. It makes us good at being a blessing in the world. So I think the main obstacle for this is sort of mistrust in the world But even more poignantly than that, or more pertinently than that, is our animosity towards what we perceive to be threats in the world, or what we perceive to be unjust things in the world. And that's very natural. I think pretty much every human being in the world has this natural inbuilt feeling that the external world is full of threats, and there's an animosity towards that. Now, definitely we need to take action, because a lot of the times when there are threats in the world, we either, need to take really practical action. If there's a stranger in our house that is causing a mess, we need to ask them to leave. If our work life is very toxic, we can leave from work. And if someone is bullying some kids at the park, we can step up and defend the children. So action is most definitely good. We can all take action. We don't need to be like Christ did on the cross and just take punishment. We can stand up for ourselves, because Christ, he was, this is a story, but we can say that he was making a point. He was a symbol of this deep goodness, this deep acceptance, and this deep spirit of the Holy Spirit. That's what he was doing on the cross. But we can be empowered by the grace of God. But even as we take action against the threats of the world, we can still have goodwill towards people, and we can still drop this animosity. But the point is, if I just talk about dropping animosity, that's not going to help anyone. How do we actually, in real life, drop noticeable amounts of animosity towards people or things that really we struggle with? So, for instance, people have a lot of animosity, generally speaking, or a lot of the time, towards their boss or towards colleagues that they don't get along with, or maybe even more deeply, an ex that betrayed them, or a high school bully, or maybe a family member that you felt treated you really poorly. How can we drop that deep seed of animosity? And I call it a seed because in sort of daily life, let's take, for example, a school bully that you had 20 years ago. You barely ever think of that school bully, but if someone brings up the name of that bully, your face might grimace and you'll immediately have that seed of animosity grow within you, and you'll feel bad towards the person and probably want to shun them away. And that's very natural. There's nothing to feel wrong about that. But this seed of animosity, it sort of has a weight attached to it, and we're carrying this weight around in daily life. And actually this seed of animosity is sort of a blockage. It is sort of blocking the river, blocking the flow of water, the flow of the Holy Spirit coming through us. So if we can drop this seed of animosity, we can very metaphorically or literally, whatever you like, become conduits, feel the flow of the grace of God, feel the flow of the white dove energy. And that's a fantastic thing to aspire to. But so how can we actually drop this seed at all, from all of life, as deeply as we can, to noticeably deep levels? And it's a bit counterintuitive. What we might think is a good idea is to just suppress it, or to fake being a good person, to say words that sound good, like, oh, all the best to my high school bully, but actually deep down you still feel that animosity. We want to deeply drop it. So the counterintuitive move, I believe, and this is sort of inspired by teachings from Shinzen Young. I really resonate with his teachings. I think there's a lot of value there, but a sort of my interpretation of that for this situation is we want to fully feel the animosity towards a person. And usually we are sort of scared, or we don't feel good when we feel animosity towards someone, so we suppress it. But if we, in a conscious setting, fully let that animosity come up in our body, sort of feel it to the tips of our fingers, to the tips of our cheeks, be expressive even, and truly feel that animosity. And at the same time as doing that, you feel the goodwill towards the other person. The same goodwill that Christ had towards the person that was stabbing him with a spear as he was on the cross. You have the animosity and the goodwill at the same time. And when you have both of those in the same room, as it were, the Holy Spirit, which is the goodwill, can wash away the animosity. So to be metaphorical here or poetic here, as you allow this animosity to come up in the body, it's like a tree growing, and as the tree grows, it grows really quick. It sort of sprouts lots and lots of leaves, but we'll say these are poisonous leaves. It's leaves of animosity. But as you have this goodwill spirit in the air, it can blow away all the leaves of animosity, all the poison and pain. And actually, as the leaves are blown away, the seed that's deep down there gets pulled out with the leaves and gets blown away permanently. So we no longer have to carry around that weight of the seed of animosity. And that's also easier said than done. This sort of process probably will take many hours. It will take a lot of emotional work to really truly feel the animosity, to truly feel the goodwill as well at the same time. It's a lot of emotional integration, but if you can get into contact with this Christ, this Holy Spirit, this white dove energy, this grace of God energy, it can really honestly, totally, to a really deep, noticeable level, take away the animosity from your body, from your nervous system. It can remove it, and then you become a daily channel of the white dove energy. So now, to just get even more practical about how to actually do that, there's a spiritual practice which I really like. I've gotten so much benefit from it, called the 8 spiritual breaths. And I'll sort of end on this point. The 8th affirmation in that system, I think, really connects me to this grace of God, Holy Spirit, goodwill energy. And what I like to do, what I've been doing over the past few days, is to bring up a particular situation of feeling animosity towards a particular person. So you fully feel that in your nervous system, and then you say the following words, the following affirmations. It's like a really beautifully written poem. And by feeling the animosity, but letting all these words, all this poetry flow through the animosity, it is like the Holy Spirit carrying away the animosity and carrying away the seed. So, what is these affirmations? What is the words? That'll be the final words for the video. And how it goes is, I now see a bright light above my head. I am feeling joy, joy, joy. And now at the same time, I let it out, out, out. I embrace all in the practice of Brahma Vidya, wherever they may be. I embrace the city. I embrace the state. And now I see great waves of light rolling out, growing of their own accord. Wave upon wave upon wave, I embrace the country. And now, with the light of the divine wisdom within me, with my love, with my joy, and with my life, I embrace every living thing.